The American Museum asks us to imagine a world in which horses of all colors, shapes, and sizes roam the world, some barely larger than a dog. That world no longer exists, but once it was real. Today's horses represent just one tiny twig on an immense family tree that spans millions of years. Today I want to review the origins of the horse. I rode horses as a child, and my room is covered in it, so I know a lot about it. Some of you have ridden horses or have seen them on TV and thought maybe they were cool, or stuff like that. I will be discussing the origins of the horse, the two main types of horses that we had in the past. The first thing you need to know is the origin of the horse. Another quote from American Museum of Natural History said, "The earliest known horses evolved 55 million years ago." They also said, for much of this time, multiple horse species lived at the same time side by side. The first horses lived in North America. For half of the horses' history, they lived in the forest because they were small. American Museum of Natural History said that there were two major climates that affected the evolution of early horses. First, about 55 million years ago, global temperatures abruptly rose from 9 to 18 degrees Celsius, turning much of North America into a warm subtropical forest, much like what you see today in the Brazilian rainforest. That's where leaf-eating horses thrived. About 35 million years ago, global temperatures dropped, creating a similar temperature to today's. Thereafter, dry grassland started to replace much of the North American forest, leading to rapid evolution among horses. But about 9 million years ago, most forest browsers had disappeared, leaving primarily grass-eating grazers like those alive today. Some became larger and had the familiar hoofs and eating diets that we associate with horses today. These new species survived to create our modern horse. Another quote from American Museum of Natural History said, about 10 million years ago, horses became extinct in North America and South America. Equus, the ancestor of all horses today, survived only in Eurasia and Africa. What ended their 55 million year run in North America, you ask? Well, the prime suspects are the climate changes, disease, and human hunting. Now that you know the origins of the horse, we can take a closer look at the two main horse species of the past. About 10 million years ago, there were about a dozen different species of horse that roamed the Great Plains of North America. These horses came in many different shapes and sizes. The American Museum of Natural History focused on two particular species. Hippohippus, Greek for low horse. They lived in the woodlands of North America. They lived between 17 and 11 million years ago in the Middle Miocene era. They were about 6 feet long and weighed 500 pounds. They had relatively short legs, and they had 3 toes. Their diet was leaves. A quote from Bob Strauss said, "This prehistoric horse was relatively big for Miocene North America, about the size of a modern-day pony. To judge by its relatively short legs, at least compared to other horses of the time, and their spreading of the 3 toes on their feet, Hippohippus spent most of his time in the soft undergrowth of forests, rooting around for vegetation." Now for the grasslands. Dinohippus, Greek for terrible horse, they lived in the plains of in the plains of North America, the grasslands. They lived between 13 and 5 million years ago in the late Miocene. They're 5 feet tall and 750 pounds. Their diet was grass. They only had one hoof because they had to, for the ability to stand for long periods of time. Bob Strauss said, this prehistoric horse is now thought to be the immediate precursor of the modern genus Equus. The giveaway is Dinohippus's primitive stay apparatus, a telltale arrangement of the bones and tendons in its legs that allowed it to stand for long periods of time, like modern horses. The historical records of horses in North America is vast, but as you can see, there are 2 species that helped to develop the modern horse. Today, I've introduced you to the horse's origins and the forest and plain horses that helped bring us the modern horse. As you can see, there is a lot to know about the horses and its origins, but I hope that you enjoyed listening as I enjoyed telling about it. Thank you.
All right, the introduction, I like the visualization and the quote that you have as your attention device. I think the purpose statement may be a little bit simplistic as it's phrased, but you have a good preview, and the content is very nicely developed. There's very good citation of material, and I think at the end of the speech you have a good summary about what it is that we were supposed to get out of the presentation. So content structural issues are pretty solid. On the presentation issues, this is where you needed, I think, a little bit more practice. You're locked into the one spot in the corner there. You don't step up and engage to the audience. You are basically reading from your spot, and it feels, I think, like a very passive presentation to the audience. You have a few gestures. They're mostly used as indicators, and they felt repetitive in the first part of the speech. I think when you switched your hands a couple of times, that helped make it feel a little bit more spontaneous while you were talking to us. When you look up and give us a facial expression, they're usually pretty effective. The problem is that you're not doing that very often, and your eye contact is very limited because of the notes that you have in your hands, and you've got those pages that you're having to turn over. They're folded over pages that you're looking at, and sometimes you have to handle them with both hands, and they're up there in front of your face, and it just doesn't feel as if you are engaging with the audience as much as it is you're just standing there presenting in front of the audience, and that's not the same thing that we're looking for here. I thought the artifacts were integrated into the speech pretty effectively, although a couple of the pictures I think went by a little bit too quickly. You got them off the screen. I know you're trying to keep from letting stuff linger there too long, but sometimes it just feels like it was up there for 3 seconds and then you moved on to the next point. On Paralanguage, I think you need a little bit more energy, a little bit more variety in your voice. There's nothing that was bad. We could hear you, and I think that you do get a sense that you care about the subject, but I think that it could be much more engaging if you were talking about this, and I think this is one of the places where you needed a little bit of practice. Like I said, the content seemed like it was well developed. I thought you had a good conclusion at the end of the speech. The style is just a little bit dry, and like it's I don't want to say a museum piece because there is so much museum talk in it, but it is very lecture-like instead of being audience-friendly, and I think that you could probably fix those things with a little practice and a little bit more levity and lighter touch on the subject. All right, thank you.